Dana has been working in the field of conscious evolution and the integration of science and spirituality for 25 years. She was a research scientist at the world-renowned HeartMath Institute for 12 years, where she authored numerous scientific publications on topics such as psychophysiology of positive emotions, heart-brain communication, heart field energetic interactions, and the heart's role in intuition and intentionality. And so she's now sharing her work around the world. She continues to integrate science and spirituality in her teachings about the role of heart intelligence, love, emotional evolution in a personal and planetary transformation. So one thing I didn't do before we started all this, because we were doing a quick baton handoff, is just really welcome everybody again to the Up Convergence 2020. We're in the Co-Creators Convergence room during Heart Hour. My name is Karen Trujillo Heffernan. I'm the founder of Surf in Your Soul Family Services, and my work is focused on the heart field and the soul. And I offer a modality called Heart Thread, which we did earlier in the week. And once I heard about HeartMath and studied about it, all of that scientific research supported what was actually happening in the Heart Thread modality. And we're now taking Heart Thread further in the world. And again, a testament to this conference and this connection, somebody who was on that Heart Thread call on Sunday has asked to be trained in the Heart Thread modality. So now we're doing a training in New Mexico at the end of October because of this. And I'm so excited that I know Dana at this time, because your research and your knowledge of the intellect and combining its spirituality is going to take this work and carry it so much further. So without further ado, you let me know what you need from me, and be a little patient as we're unmuting, because when Dana gets to the interactive part, she will ask and we will go ahead. You have to be asked to be unmuted, so watch your screens. And when we're not in the interactive, if you could please, keep your videos off and we'll focus on you, Dana.
So thank you everyone for coming. Aloha and welcome. It's so nice to be here with all of you in the Heart Hour. This, like I said, is going to be an interactive presentation. We'll be learning some heart tools. We'll be co-creating an amplified heart field together and putting out our intentions to the planet. That's the last thing we're going to do. So please stay with us so that you can participate in that. And anyone who is watching on Facebook and would like to come join us in the Co-Creators Convergence room, please come on in. Thank you, Karen and Carolyn, for hosting this. I like to just start. Oh, I believe I am a co-host, right? Am I a co-host? Yes. Okay, awesome. Let's just start with a little heart connection and heart invocation. I like to start everything with that. So let's close our eyes and focus on our heart space. Breathing slowly and gently through your heart. And just focusing on a feeling of gratitude and appreciation in your heart. And I ask that energy from Source please be present with us in this session together. Please infuse our session. We ask also for the presence and participation of our higher selves and all the beings of light and love that work with us and support our evolution and growth in the heart. We ask that together and individually, we each come to know our hearts a little bit better today and come to have a deeper connection with our heart's consciousness and our heart's intelligence so that we can use that consciousness in a positive way in the world. And asking just for all help of light and love to be with us and support us. Please help. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So before I start my PowerPoint slides, I'd like to just ask, what does the heart mean to you? And let's see if I am able to unmute people. I just wanted to get maybe two quick perspectives from our audience here on what does the heart mean to you, just in a few words. Let's see. I'm unmuting you, Heather, because I saw you.
Oh, yeah. What does the heart mean to me? Oh, and they're working outside. Yeah. The heart means to me, it's like the closest road to home for me. The heart is, you know, is the hub I need to be operating out of. You know, the heart means that I'm in sync with my higher self and the universe and others.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love to use that word home too. I think of the heart as home. Definitely. Who else wanted to? Carolyn. Let's see if I can unmute you.
Oops, I think I did it. Okay. I think I'm unmuted. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love HeartMath so very much. I've had, oh my God, he's the co-founder, and Howard on the first year I did my show. Howard was my guest, and I've met Howard in person at other conferences. Yes. So Howard Martin, right? Am I saying his name? Yes, he's the co-founder. I love HeartMath, and I talk about HeartMath in my presentation. But what the heart means, your question. Let's get to your question. What the heart means to me is, I know from the work of HeartMath is that the heart is far more intelligent than the brain. And I say that the heart has infinite wisdom. I mean, it's unlimited, the wisdom that comes from our heart. And the brain is limited wisdom that comes from our limited 5 senses. So it's the heart that is the driver. Like I think of my body as a vehicle. And I say my heart is the driver. My brain, my ego brain is in the passenger seat, and sometimes I have to put the brain in the back seat. I'm just going with the heart, whatever the heart, wherever I have. And the thing is, when you follow your heart, you have no idea where you're going. You truly don't. It's a trust, but you know that it's good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was a really, really great perspective. And now let's just go into my presentation here. Okay, so this presentation is called Heart Intelligence and Emotional Evolution, Humanity's Next Threshold. And we just asked that question, what does the heart mean to you? This idea of the heart as a center of intelligence and a conduit to a much larger aspect of ourself, a much larger awareness, is actually not a new idea at all. It's an ancient one. As far back as in the 300 BCs, Aristotle himself said that the heart is the perfection of the whole organism. Therefore, the principles of the power of perception and the soul's ability to nourish itself must lie in the heart. The power of perception being linked with the heart way back in Aristotle's time. And what we find is that every major civilization that has existed on the planet, and nearly all the world's major religions, at least in their earliest form, regarded the heart in this much broader way as a center of intelligence, a seat of emotions, and a spiritual conduit. And it's just so interesting to me that all of these cultures, having existed at different times and in different geographical locations, shared this bigger view of the heart. It's only in the last several hundred years that this broader conception of the heart has been largely reduced to a more mechanistic one by Western science and medicine that calls the heart just a pump. However, it's now new science, science itself, is coming back to confirm the ancient wisdom. And new science is showing that the heart really is an information processing center with its own type of intelligence. And that it does appear to connect us with an awareness that's larger and much more encompassing than our everyday experience. So let's take a look at some of the science. The heart's been shown to have its own brain, its own intrinsic nervous system, a network of neurons connected similar to the brain in the head, which is so sophisticated that scientists classify it as a brain in its own right. And the heart brain can make decisions, it can process information, it even has a form of learning and memory. And the heart brain processes all of this information independently of the brain in the head, and it actually sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, which is somewhat surprising if we learn in school that the brain is the master commander. No, it's really a two-way communication network, with the heart actually contributing more information than the other way around. The heart's also a hormonal gland. It produces hormones and neurotransmitters that were once thought to be only produced in the brain. And the heart really has now been shown scientifically to play a primary role in intuition. Even electrophysiologically, we can measure that the heart has a response to an event in the future, an event that has not yet occurred. And what this shows is that the heart, like those ancient cultures knew, is tapping into a domain beyond space and time, that energetic domain that unites everything and where all energy exists. And it's bringing in information from that higher realm, that realm of energy, into our physical reality and into our body. And I believe the heart registers that information first and then sends that message to the brain, and we can become conscious of that intuitive information. So very early on in the history of HeartMath research, what they were focusing on is what physiological measures were most sensitive to our emotions. And the key finding that emerged is that the rhythm of the heart, called the heart rate variability pattern or the heart rhythm pattern, was by far the most sensitive indicator of our emotional energy. And in this diagram, we can see how the heart's energy is modulated by our emotions. So with the top graph showing frustration and how the heart's rhythm goes into this rather chaotic, disorganized, erratic looking pattern when we're frustrated or basically in any kind of stressful state. And that signals that the autonomic nervous system is not working in the most effective way. Our system is not in harmony. It's almost like trying to drive the car with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake at the same time. And most of us wouldn't do that with our car, at least not for very long. And yet we let that type of reaction last in our system, maybe longer sometimes than we would really need to. And that does have a lot of wear and tear on the system. Whereas on the bottom, we see the heart rhythm pattern in appreciation. And that is such a different waveform. When we enter positive emotional states like appreciation, the heart's rhythm shifts into this beautiful harmonic sine wave-like pattern. And that is what we call heart coherence. Heart coherence is an optimal state. I call it the body's signature of love, because it's states that are sourced in love that naturally give rise to this very harmonic, ordered, sine wave-like rhythm in the heart's rhythmic activity. So that's heart coherence. Interestingly, though, it's not just the heart that goes into this coherent state when we experience positive emotions. I called this slide, Love Synchronizes the Body's Systems, because when we go into these positive emotional states, the heart actually entrains all of the other oscillators into synchronization with it, because the heart is the master rhythmic generator in the body, and it has the power to synchronize the other systems. So in this example, we have the breathing rhythm on the top, the heart rhythm in the middle, and the blood pressure rhythm on the bottom. They all start out not particularly coherent and not particularly synchronized. And then at the dotted line in the middle, the person does a quick technique that we're about to learn called quick coherence, basically focusing on a heart-based positive emotion, and all the three rhythms come into entrainment and synchrony together. So coherence is a state of being highly in sync. And this graph just shows the frequency view of that same data. And let's just focus here on the right-hand side. During coherence, all of the energy in those different waveforms aligns in one single focused peak. It's a very powerful, focused, high performance state to be in. All of our energy is aligned. It's like our energy becomes almost like a laser in coherence. So if you're going to be an active co-creator, and I'm assuming everyone here in this room is an active co-creator because we're in the co-creators convergence room. If you want to be an active co-creator of your own reality, would you prefer to do it from a state where all of your energy is kind of dissipated and spread out in different energy wave bands, or from this state where everything is aligned like a laser? I think the answer is obvious. So it's feeling states that are sourced in love, which naturally shift the body into a state of optimal function. That's a really interesting observation. It might even cause us to wonder, are we actually hardwired to live in love? So now let's learn a quick process by which we can actually make that shift that we just saw to the coherent state. This process is called quick coherence, and it's intentionally designed to be very simple, very direct, and easy to use right in the midst of your day-to-day life, right in the midst of when you're experiencing stress or need to shift your perspective or just want to recalibrate. It's a very direct and simple but powerful process to use. And it has three main components. The first component is heart focus, focusing one's attention in the actual physical area of the heart. The second is heart breathing, where we actually imagine that we are breathing as though our breath is flowing in and out through our heart center. And we imagine doing that at a rhythm of about 4 or 5 seconds on the in-breath and about 4 or 5 seconds on the out-breath. And that starts to make the autonomic nervous system shift to one of greater coherence. But then the last step is really the most important, because to sustain that shift, we want to add the positive feeling, so a heart feeling. And by heart feeling, I mean any positive emotion, love, care, compassion. And the one we use the most is appreciation, because appreciation is a very easy emotion for most people to access. Most of us can find something, even if it's something really simple, to appreciate in the moment. So let's go ahead and do this process. So let's close our eyes. Focusing your attention on the area of your heart, right in the center of your chest. Shifting your focus away from anything else going on in your mind or outside of you, to just allow that attention to concentrate gently in your heart area. You can place a hand on your heart if you wish to help anchor your attention there. And now with our attention in our heart area, let's imagine slowly beginning to breathe as though our breath were coming in through your heart and breathing out through your heart. And breathing in and breathing out. And just finding a breathing rhythm, maybe a little slower than normal, but that feels natural to you. And continuing to breathe slowly and gently through your heart center. And now let's bring into our hearts a positive feeling. a feeling of appreciation that we have for someone or something in our life. It could be a person, an animal, an experience, a place that we love, just whatever it is that makes your heart come alive with that appreciation and gratitude. Reignite that feeling, really feel that feeling, experience in your heart space. And then just imagine breathing appreciation gently in and out through your heart. Okay, when you're ready, just come back and open your eyes. I hope some of you felt a shift in your energy with that. I won't ask you to unmute right now, but I'd be curious to hear later about what your experience was with the quick coherence. So that is a simple way to make a very profound shift in our energy and in our whole system. Some of the benefits of coherence that have been shown now in over 30 years of scientific research. These are just summary benefits shown by many, many studies. Overall, we have better health because our system is functioning much more efficiently and effectively, and natural regenerative processes are enhanced. Practicing coherence tools and working with the energy of our emotions also leads to improved cognitive function and performance. Aspects like improved memory, improved mental clarity, information processing and problem solving, task performance, and increased creativity and intuition. Also, very importantly, we have increased emotional stability, the capacity to reduce stress and to experience more sustained positive emotions. And finally, it also impacts our psychosocial function, our relationship with others, whether with family members or colleagues, work teams, performance groups. Just about every social collective experiences a lot of benefits through learning these coherence-based practices. Here's just one example of a physiological improvement that was measured in people who practiced the heart coherence tools and really focusing on working with their emotions, working with the regulation of their emotions for only a month, for just 30 days. And this study found that DHEA, the anti-aging hormone, increased on average by 100% in this population, whereas cortisol, the stress hormone, decreased by 23%. Now, these are huge, significant improvements in these hormones that normally don't move that much in their levels. People take supplements to try to increase DHEA, which is known as anti-aging hormone. And these improvements happen just by working on the emotional level using the heart. A lot more research studies, papers that you can download can be found at heartmath.org. If you go to research and then research library, you'll find a wealth of information on the different research studies that have been done over the last 30 years. So let's talk about heart-brain communication. How does the heart communicate with the brain? Well, the heart is always sending signals to the brain, always sending neurological information. With every heartbeat, that information from the heart is traveling all the way up to the higher brain centers, involved in our cognitive processing, involved in our perception, involved in the very processes by which we interpret and respond to the world around us. Input from the heart is coloring basically all aspects of our higher brain function, including our emotional regulation as well. when the heart is sending an incoherent message to the brain, that actually has the effect of shutting down or limiting our higher cognitive capacities. It's called cortical inhibition. So we might find that we can't think as clearly, we make poor decisions, we feel unclear, we lack our ability to remember things effectively, we regret things that we do when we're under stress. Many of us have experienced something like that and can attest to that fact. And that at least partly accounts by this fact that the heart is sending in an incoherent message, which is reaching the higher brain centers and limiting their effective function. Conversely, when we experience a positive feeling and send a coherent message up to the brain, it has the opposite effect. It actually opens up our higher cognitive function and facilitates our broader perspectives. It facilitates our access to a full range of solutions, to our full range of creativity, problem-solving abilities. Just about every aspect of our cognitive function is enhanced in that type of state. So HeartMath says that, it's a different approach. Instead of just trying to change our thoughts from the top down, from the mind, in an effort to feel differently, which sometimes works, but sometimes isn't so effective in actually shifting our emotional state. Instead, let's start from the heart. Let's start from this very powerful, pervasive influence and change our whole psychophysiological and inner environment, which then creates a different internal space and sends a different message of information to the brain. So the brain can then naturally come into a different perception about whatever it was that was challenging us. So instead of just changing our thoughts from here, we're changing our whole psychophysiology, and then the brain receives a different signal and can have a different perception. HeartMath used to have a tagline that said, "A change of heart changes everything." And that's really what happens here. So on the broadest level, love, these states of love, compassion, appreciation, states that are sourced in love, these heart-focused states, they not only enhance our regular cognitive functions that we use on a day-to-day basis, but it also appears that these states of love, these states of coherence, open up a channel to our higher intelligence, to a level of our awareness that comes from a place beyond our regular mind, our heart intelligence. By heart intelligence, I mean the awareness that's connected with the eternal aspect of us, with our higher self, our higher dimensional perspective. And through states of coherence, through quieting all the inner noise that's normally generated by our unmanaged emotions, we can become a clearer conduit to receive that heart intelligence, to receive that larger awareness. So we can think of it like a radio station. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. So, what radio station do you listen to? I've heard of a really great radio station called Higher Self Radio. And oh my God, that's a really, really, really good station, because everything broadcast on that radio station comes from a place of love, wholeness, compassion, inspiration, infusion of spirit. It's just the best station. But how often are we actually really bringing in that signal of our higher self radio with integrity and with consistency? In this dimension of reality, not so consistently, not so much. Sometimes I get snatches of it, or just a little snippet of that higher self radio station coming through, like, the most loving thing to do in this moment is this. I'm like, okay, that's my higher self radio. That's that signal coming through from my higher self. But then I can just as easily go back to oh, but that person over there is wrong and I'm right. And by the way, it's not fair. And I'm processing 3 other things that haven't yet happened in the future over here because I'm worried about that. And I'm regretting what happened in the past and running a thought loop on that I'm not even really aware of. And that's all of that is like the static on our radio station that prevents us from attuning to our higher self radio that is playing all the time. But with that unmanaged emotional activity, we can't tune into it clearly. But let's say I get tired of that one day, just like, okay, I've been listening to Third Dimensional Consciousness Greatest Hits station for a really long time. I've memorized all the songs that they play on that station, and I want something different. I've heard there's this really amazing station called Higher Self Radio. How do I tune into that? Ready for some new material. So let's go back to our presentation here. How do we tune into that? Essentially, coherence is not just an optimal performance state. It is a state of optimal performance, but it's also a doorway. It's a doorway that connects us to the largest aspect of our awareness. So when we quiet all the extraneous inner noise that I just demonstrated, that's created by the normal stream of unregulated mental and emotional activity, and when we align the physiological, mental, and emotional systems with the heart, that is when we become a clearer conduit to receive and integrate heart intelligence, to tune into that signal of our higher self and bring it in with integrity and with consistency. And that really is our conscious evolution. That is the next step in our conscious evolution as a species. And the portal and access code is love. Doc Childrey, the founder of HeartMath, defines heart intelligence as the flow of awareness, understanding, and intuition that we experience when the mind and emotions are brought into coherent alignment with the heart. So let's talk about heart intelligence and emotional evolution. That was the title of this presentation. What is emotional evolution? So our emotional energy is a huge and powerful resource. It's like a vast ocean within, and it really is our most powerful technology. We haven't realized that yet. And the movement of emotional energy underlies movement in virtually all aspects of our life, conscious and unconscious. But for the most part, in mass society, emotional energy dynamics are largely disorganized, they're incoherent. So much energy is dissipated in reactive, often unconscious emotional patterns. Our emotional energy is not being utilized effectively. It's not being utilized consciously. So bringing coherence to our emotions, focusing that energy, aligning it, using it with consciousness, that requires an awareness quicker and broader and deeper than just the mind alone. You know, we've gotten to a certain point with the mind, but now we're at a threshold at which we need heart intelligence. We need to pull in that higher dimensional awareness, that full range of our intelligence that we have access to, so that we can evolve our relationships with our emotions and begin to use our emotional energy in new and more conscious ways, conscious being a key word here. When we're able to organize and focus our emotional energy, this huge, huge resource, that allows for new abilities and potentials to emerge. So one of those would be a much greater enhanced intuitive perception. You know, right now we do tune into our intuition, but it's a little bit at random and it's not consistent. When we're able to utilize our emotional energy and focus that energy and organize it in a whole new way, we will have whole different level of access to intuitive awareness. It's like we'll just be able to tune into something and download information on that thing. It will evolve our society exponentially to open up that awareness. It's the evolution of our emotional energy. The other thing that will evolve is our capacity to be conscious co-creators, to use our intentional agency to consciously create our reality. And yes, we are doing that now, and we play at it and we practice it, we manifest things, but it's not consistent, and it's not with the power and effectiveness that we will be able to utilize when we have that new relationship and new mastery of our emotional energy. So our emotional energy really is our most powerful inner technology. The evolution of the planet, of the human race, for the last number of millennia has been largely focused on our relationship with our external world. And now it's time to turn inward, because we can't continue only to evolve externally, only to evolve in the technologies that we produce on the external level, without also bringing that awareness to our internal development. Because once we have our internal technology developed, our emotional technology, the whole world will change. Our existing technology, everything will change. And even our relationship with the external things we create in the world will be vastly different. It's time to turn inward and focus on this huge resource that we have yet to really understand and utilize completely. How do we do that? What are some of the steps of emotional evolution? Some of the stepping stones on that path. First, to have increased emotional awareness. Emotional awareness is simply the ability to start tracking what's going on with our emotional energy. Most people are largely unaware of that, at least in mass society. So becoming aware of how that energy is utilized, how it's focused, how it's not focused, how it's wasted, how it's dissipated, or how it's accumulated, and getting much more aware and conscious of that. Then we can move to emotional discernment. Emotional discernment is the ability to discern between what aspects of what I'm experiencing are really coming from my higher self-awareness and which ones are coming more from my ego mind. And to discern the difference between those two voices, those two perspectives. One is coming from a place of wholeness, and the other is coming from a much more limited perspective, perhaps a more conditioned perspective. So to discern the difference between what radio station are we actually playing in each moment is a major, major step. Emotional acceptance is our ability to just fully accept all of our human experience. And that's a step that in some systems is often overlooked. To accept all of our emotions, because we're all here on this human journey to experience a whole range of human emotions. And some are more mature and some are less mature, almost like little children parts of us. But just as we would love a little child unconditionally, we can also love each of our emotional experiences and accept it fully and unconditionally. And with the energy of that acceptance, that's what it takes for something to truly transmute, to truly move and change. And that brings us to the next step, emotional modulation. Emotional modulation refers to our ability to consciously and proactively utilize our emotional energy. So instead of just being emotional reactors, instead of just reacting to our external circumstances, thinking that that's what causes our emotions, we can proactively decide what emotional energy are we going to put out into the world today or in this moment. Almost like an artist uses his or her palette of different paints. Like what ways do I want to express this vast resource that I have and all of its permutations? What do I want to put out to the world and in my environment? So that's exciting, to become active modulators of our emotions. Now we'll see how our emotions and how our heart's field affects those around us. Heart's field is the most powerful field that the body generates. It's 40 to 60 times the strength of the brain's electrical field. So the electrical component of the heart's field is 40 to 60 times the strength of the brain's. The magnetic component of the heart's field is 5,000 times the strength of the brain's magnetic field. So you can think about that. What is it that's really affecting our reality? Is it just our little mental thoughts going on up here? Or is it the energy that's connected with our emotions that is put out by the heart's field 5,000 times in strength of what's going on up here? That's the main mover and shaker in creating our reality and interacting with our reality in what we put out and what we receive back. So of course, different emotions produce different information patterns in the heart's electromagnetic field. And we can become much more conscious of what type of signal we are putting out into the world. Our heart fields are always interacting. They're always exchanging information. So if we were in a room together, or even non-locally, you could imagine just like our heart field patterns intersecting, like creating a beautiful mandala of intersecting interference patterns, and that information going out and turning back to us and sensed by our hearts on the incoming wave. There's always that amazing level of interaction going on. So we might as well become more conscious. If we are affecting those in our environment, we might as well become conscious of what we are putting out rather than just emitting that unconsciously. Here are some examples of ways that our hearts connect and synchronize. For example, this is a husband and wife sleeping through the night, and their heart rhythms are synchronizing together. This is two friends sitting at about a 4 feet distance without contact, and they're just sending love and appreciation to each other. And you can see this clear entrainment of their heart rhythms. So there's obviously a non-contact, non-local effect. Let's look at people and animals. This is Josh and Mabel, a very famous story now, the boy and his dog. So Mabel, the dog, the heart rhythms, her heart rhythms are up here in the top graph, and Josh was measured in the bottom graph. You can see in the beginning, Josh and Mabel are in separate rooms, and their heart rhythms are not very coherent and not synchronized with one another. Then Josh enters the room and loves Mabel. He just feels feelings of love toward his dog. And both of their heart rhythms go into much more coherence, and they entrain with one another. Very clear shift there. And finally, on the right, Josh leaves the room, but Mabel wants him to stay, and both of their heart rhythms go back out of that coherence. So that's a beautiful example, first, of how sensitive that animals are to our heart signals and to our emotional signals that we're emitting. And it also really shows us how real this is. Mabel, the dog, didn't know the purpose of the experiment cognitively. She was just in the room, and her heart picked up the love coming from Josh and responded to that. So the emotional information that we put out through our heart field is real and has real effects on the beings around us. This is just a model that I talk about in more depth in my longer workshops, but it shows that when two people or two beings are coherent, symbolized by the concentric circles, an actual communication pathway opens up between them. See that channel whereby high speed, faster than speed of light, intuitive energetic information can be exchanged. So when we're coherent, we become much more sensitive and much more tuned in to those around us and able to have a much deeper connection, really, with those around us. When we're not coherent, that communication pathway shuts down. So it's just another thing to consider, and how coherence affects our ability to connect with others. And finally, we can use coherence in a group context to create an amplified coherent heart field. And we're going to do that in a few minutes at the end of this presentation. When we come together with a common intention and get into a state of coherence in a heart-focused state, that coherent heart energy is amplified synergistically so that the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts. And that creates an amplified, coherent heart field. You can actually feel that, and we'll have a chance to experience that together. This creates a super powerful receiver and transmitter of energetic information, this container. And it's a space in which collective intuition, creativity, and focused intention can be amplified. It's also a space that facilitates our emotional self-awareness and emotional growth, especially if we're coming into those spaces consistently with an intention for our expansion. And creating a group field in that way also can facilitate optimal flow states in groups. For example, in work teams or sports teams or in musical groups. It can really facilitate that deeper connectivity, which allows for the emergence of flow and optimal function. And finally, it's a powerful container for planetary work, which we will be doing at the end of this presentation. I like to bring groups together to send focused heart and care to the planet at this time of transition on the planet. And it's a very powerful process to do that together in a group. Locally or non-locally, it has an amplified effect. That brings us to the Global Coherence Initiative. The Global Coherence Initiative is a project that HeartMath has had for quite a number of years now. It's a science-based, co-creative project to unite people in heart-focused love and intention, to really facilitate the shift in global consciousness from instability and discord to compassionate care, cooperation, and increasing peace. It has two components. The humanitarian component is to create this global network of people all over the world who are committed to consciously emanating coherent heart energy and caring intention on a regular basis to help ease planetary strife and to help uplift consciousness on the planet. And there is now a huge network of people all over the planet who are doing that. And the scientific component of this project is to measure changes in the Earth's magnetic field in response to mass human positive emotion and intention. And that ties in with the fact that we are intimately connected with the Earth. We are electromagnetic beings, and the Earth is also an electromagnetic being. And the Earth field has resonant frequencies that correspond to the very frequencies emanated by our heart and brain. So there are true organic connections between us and our fields and the Earth field. And the Global Coherence Initiative is measuring the impact of mass human positive intention, such as in the Global Coherence Initiative, or for example, on the upcoming Peace Weekend, where everybody's uniting in this positive intention. Does something like that have the capacity to actually create a measurable change in the Earth's field, a measurable positive change that could then feed back and affect human consciousness? So you can go to the Global Coherence Initiative website, heartmath.org/GCI, and find out all the ways that you can participate in that. But one of the most important ways to do it, and the simplest really, is to ask yourself in each moment, ask yourself, what am I feeding the field? Because we're all feeding the field something. We just discussed how our heart energy goes out and affects our reality, and it affects the field of the Earth. So we can become conscious co-creators in that regard as well, and ask ourselves, what am I feeding the field right now? Am I feeding it worry, stress, anger, or am I feeding it peace, love, compassion? And we can make those choices more and more. We can learn how to become emotion generators rather than just emotional reactors. So moving from a reactive to a proactive use of our emotional energy. Remember, we talked about how most of the use, so-called use of our emotional energy is not conscious. It's not proactive. And using that energy, that inner technology, proactively is the first step in becoming master co-creators. One process that you can use to do that is called attitude breathing. And it's a really simple process of just recognizing which ingrained attitudes, which very familiar emotional patterns that we kind of carry around, which of those are less efficient, which are outdated, which could be possibly replaced with new and more efficient attitudes, and then consciously choosing and embodying those new attitudes and breathing them into the body and out into the world to help anchor them. So we can try attitude breathing now, just going through some of the steps. So let's do this together. The first step is just to acknowledge your old attitude, or which attitude seems less efficient, less regenerative, and just really just acknowledge that, name it, allow it to feel seen, heard, accepted for what it is. We can recognize that as like a child part of ourselves, and we accept it. We accept it completely as it is. So let's do that. Let's bring whatever attitude we choose to work with into our heart space and just surround it with unconditional acceptance. Then, as we connect with our heart space, tuning into our heart intelligence, we can ask our heart to help us choose a replacement attitude or attitudes. Like, what would be a good replacement attitude? It could be one, or maybe it could be two. Let's say I started out in anxiety and I wanted to replace that attitude, and my heart said, well, how about breathing peace and serenity? So I might choose to then breathe through my heart, breathing in peace, and breathing out through my solar plexus, breathing out serenity. So that's an example. So we can breathe the new attitudes in through our heart and out through our solar plexus. And we do that to help anchor them a little bit deeper in the body, to help ground those new attitudes and connect that more with the earth and with our environment. So let's do that now. Choose one or two attitudes that you wish to embody as a replacement attitude. And then just imagine breathing that attitude in through your heart and out through your solar plexus. And as you do that, even feel your connection with the earth. Really ground that new energy in. Breathing in through the heart. And breathing it out through the solar plexus. And as you breathe in that new attitude, like you're sending that information to all of your cells, you're repatterning. We can actually repattern our neural circuitry, our physiological circuitry, our emotional circuitry. And once the new patterns become more familiar, then they're more easily sustained and they become much more easy to access and live in naturally. So, emotional evolution in action, how can we bring this into our lives? first step would just be starting to catch those less effective, outdated emotional reactions and patterns, just like we did in that exercise, and consult our heart intelligence for a more effective response. We're not going to get a more effective response by just keeping our third dimensional consciousness greatest hits radio station on. We already know that one. So we have to tune into our higher self radio. So remembering to make that adjustment if we're finding ourselves in stress, or if we're finding ourselves in, distress of any kind, realizing that we have a different choice in what information we draw on to make our choices and to find a solution. And then we can learn how to distinguish between the voice of the ego mind, 3D consciousness greatest hits, or the voice of the higher self, which always comes from a place of love and wholeness, always. Experiencing more compassion for ourselves and others. So important. We saw how that acceptance piece is the energy that allows for transmutation. So remembering to exercise compassion both for yourself and for those around you. And beginning to utilize our emotional energy proactively, becoming conscious co-creators, waking up and deciding what attitudes do we want to breathe as we're getting ready for our day. How are we going to set the frequency of the day? If we're going into a situation like giving a presentation, how do I want to create the field for that event? What energies do I wish to put into that energetic environment? So we can start to really work with things in that way. And of course, make it fun, right? Make it fun, because we're all here on Earth in this game of emotional evolution. And, we don't have to take it super heavily. We can bring some lightness and joy into it. And that's where we can really connect with our heart magic. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response, power to choose. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So in that space is our power to choose. A lot of people are talking about the shift in consciousness on the planet as this huge, dramatic, esoteric event that, is tied in with certain years and might involve, angels and spaceships and aliens and all sorts of amazing things. And while all of that bigger stuff can be real and is contributing, still the real shift in consciousness, the primary shift in consciousness has to occur right here, where we actually choose in each moment consciously to shift from our patterns that are reactive, automatic, conditioned, unconscious, ego-driven, sourced in fear. And we replace those patterns with ones that are sourced in love, that are proactive, that are soul-driven, and that create a positive feed-forward loop where those new emotional energies become the norm. That really is the shift in consciousness. And there can't be any limit until each of us chooses more and more to make this shift in consciousness right here. So the shift in consciousness on the planet begins in the heart of each person, and it's about choice. Remembering that our emotional energy affects our heart field that we put out, it affects and interacts with those around us, and ultimately it can contribute to creating a coherent global community on the planet. I'll end this part of the presentation with a beautiful quote that I love. Someday, after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides, and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love. And then for a second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. harnessing the energies of love. That's what we're doing. So thank you so much for attending this part of my presentation. It's not over yet because we're going to go into an exercise to create a coherent, amplified heart field together. This is how you can contact me. I have a Facebook page called Heart Magic. And in a minute, I'll be able to maybe put in the link, or if one of you has that link, one of the hosts, you can put that in the chat, my Heart Magic Facebook page. My email is there as well. Please connect to me. And I'm also inviting you to some of my other offerings. I'm doing quite a few offerings here at the Up Convergence. The one that's happening today that I hope you'll come to is a coherence meditation for water. And it's for the new moon. It's just a short event. It's just going to be in half an hour because we're having that big Caravan of Unity event right before it. So I timed it to come after that Caravan of Unity at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific. We'll just gather for half an hour and go into a beautiful, relaxing space of heart coherence with some beautiful music. And we'll connect to the consciousness of water. And we'll put out a message of love and gratitude into all of the water on the earth. And water is one of my passions. I've been studying water for a long time. And water responds to our consciousness. So I hope you'll join me for that. That's in the 4 Elements room. You can look that up on the Trello boards. So 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then tomorrow I'll continue the water theme in the Water Activating Wisdom room, doing a presentation on the energetic and multidimensional properties of water. And that will be more of a scientific presentation, but also we'll have a discussion as well. That's at 3 p.m. Eastern or 12 p.m. Pacific in the Water Activating Wisdom room tomorrow. And then I'll be doing one more coherence-focused presentation in the Peace and Spirituality room called Personal, Social, and Global Coherence as a Path to Peace, talking about how really the shift toward peace on earth has to start within us, and all the different levels of the expression of coherence that can lead to a culture of peace on earth. And that's in the Peace and Spirituality room at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific. And finally, I'm doing a more in-depth workshop later, the first Saturday of October. And you can look at my Heart Magic Facebook page if you're interested in learning more how to apply coherence practices in your life in different contexts. It'll go into more how can we apply this? What are some ways that we can use this in our life, our heart intelligence and our heart coherence? And that's called Using the Energy of the Heart for Conscious Evolution. So I hope that some of you will also join me at that workshop. Okay.
Dana, before you go into your very next piece here, I just want to acknowledge,
yes.
Thank you. There, I mean, just such a wealth of information. I want to assure everyone that's listening that this is being recorded. You'll get, after the conference, it will be edited. You'll get your piece sent, Dana. So for those of the people that are on this right now that, came because you let them know about this, they have access to this recording. You'll be able to send that to them. And because there's just so much amazing information, and thank you for sharing the other areas that you'll be, in the up conference. So you're doing, and you did so phenomenal on time. So we have, just about just under 15 minutes before our next speaker comes in. And you were so great to work with. We were running a little over. But I did just want to, you had some comments in the chat after you did the very first, heart coherence, and just people feeling very calm, feeling very relaxed, really grateful for that. So I think for this next one, do we want to have everyone, their video on and unmuted for what you're about to do?
Yeah, that would be great, because I'll invite people to just contribute a little bit to the collective vision that we create for the planet. So,
yeah,
so it'd be good to have people unmuted if they don't have background noise on.
Yeah, I'm going to ask people to unmute if you can. Just look at your screen, and if you can do your video so we can see too, and just get that, which I'm clicking ask to unmute, and it's actually not responding on my end. Interesting.
I think maybe I can do it.
Yeah,
Let's see.
try that too and see what happens. But I think, we can mute all. Can't I unmute all? Ask all to unmute. Did that?
I'm trying. Oh, are you doing it? I'm trying to ask people individually to unmute.
Unmute, but I'm not. I don't think they can because they're not. It's not happening. So let's see. Are people able to unmute themselves at this point? If not, we will just go ahead, go forward, because you know, it's about 19 minutes after the hour, and we have, you know, our peace talk coming up next.
Right. So how long, what time do we need to end? Because everything's shifted a little bit.
So we do need to try to still end at 5:30 if we can, or I'm in Pacific Standard Time. I think you are too.
Okay, so we're ending at the same time.
Yeah, if we can, but we know if you need the extra 5 minutes to go for it, but we're just trying to see what we can, how we can work together here.
Okay, so are people able to unmute themselves by any chance?
So I'm pressing ask to unmute, and it's not responding as it normally does.
Interesting.
And I think you tried too, right? Because you're also host.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
Are you getting that same where it's not?
I'm just asking, but I'm not really seeing anything happening. So
there we go. I see a couple people. Nancy and Mark are unmuted. Yeah, and feel free to yeah, okay. Let's try Bridget.
I just unmuted myself. It was pretty easy.
Okay, good. Yes.
Oh,
try
okay.
to unmute yourself, because I tried to make that happen as well in the.
All right, so let's just
go ahead.
Start, and maybe you can still help me, Karen, with the unmuting of people if we need to. Some people don't want to. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't want to, that's fine. If you can unmute and turn on your video, that would be wonderful. So we'll go from there.
All right. So let's do a quick exercise to create an amplified, coherent heart field together, and use that amplified heart field as a vehicle to transmit our intentions for the healing and evolution of the planet. And the reason I wanted people to unmute is to contribute a short intention for your vision of planetary healing and evolution, even if it was just 1 or 2 words when I asked for it, which is not yet. So first we'll go into coherence, and then we'll create this field together, and then we'll go into creating this collective vision for the planet that we'll put out.
And people can put that in the chat, and I'll read it aloud if I see it in the chat.
Yeah, you can put it in, you can put your intention in the chat as well. That's great. So let's go ahead and connect with our hearts, focusing on the area of our heart. Beginning to breathe slowly and gently. Breathing in through the heart. And breathing out through the heart. And breathing in. And breathing out. Let's imagine that we are all breathing together as one. Now let's enter a heart space of deep appreciation and gratitude. Breathing the energy of appreciation in and out through your heart center. And let's radiate this energy out into our heart field, feeling our field growing brighter, stronger, structure changing to more coherence. And now, let's go ahead and radiate love and appreciation to everyone here in this circle. Just radiating that energy from your heart out to connect with the fields of those here with us. As we make this connection, let's feel and experience our heart fields connecting and merging and giving rise to one larger, amplified, coherent heart field. Let's breathe energy of love and appreciation into this amplified heart field to help anchor it and strengthen it even more. And let's feel this field around us. It's like a holodome of light that surrounds us. It's infused with, perhaps you could imagine, a golden rose-colored light infusing this amplified heart field, this holodome that surrounds us. And it's open to energy from source, and it's connected to energy from the earth. As we continue to breathe love and appreciation into this space, let's imagine this amplified heart field becoming so expanded that it embraces the whole earth. And let's just send our love and appreciation into the earth's field, and just loving and accepting the earth exactly as it is right now. It's unconditional love. And now we'll start to build our collective vision of healing and evolution for the planet, supported by the co-creative energies of the new moon. We're going to imagine, as each of us voices an intention, our vision for what we see, what we would love to see as the earth evolves and transitions into its next level of consciousness. So you can either voice that or put that in the chat. And we'll imagine as each intention is said that we'll be placing that in the center of our circle. And then at the end, we'll energize all of the intentions in one big ball of light and release it to the universe. So whenever you're ready, if you'd like to just say a few words of your intention for the planet.
Passion.
Compassion.
That each of us loves ourselves unconditionally and one another with deep unconditional love.
Beautiful. As each intention is said, we can just send love to energize that intention even more.
I would say a ho'oponopono prayer of forgiveness for how I have been on this planet and to this planet. So,
Beautiful.
I wanted to like to ask the earth for the healing energy. Sorry. And that because so much, all the violence that's happening is because people have been wounded. I really believe that if we could be healed and in that healing offer forgiveness too, that would really make this planet the way it's supposed to be. I just flashed on that scene in E.T. when that little boy was talking to E.T. and in the book it elaborates more on that, where E.T. actually got healing energy, I think, from the planet or something like that, but that little boy like brought him back.
Right.
And that just made me think about that right now. I don't know why.
So that type of healing, beautiful. I envision that all beings experience a conscious connection with Source and with their own higher selves, and that they live from a place of wholeness and love rather than fear and separation.
breathe into that. I just want to add the ho'oponopono prayer. So I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. And you can say it in any words you want. It's the most healing prayer. So I just want to put that into the field, that when I know I'm out of alignment, I ask it for myself, I ask it for others, I ask it for all creation. Thank you.
Yes, it's a very powerful prayer with so much energy behind it. Thank you. Mahalo. Mahalo Keakua. So if there are no more voiced intentions, let's just imagine all of these intentions and prayers in the middle of our circle, and let's energize them with our light from our heart. Infusing them with love and light. And we just ask that these intentions be actualized in the highest possible order, in the highest interest of the whole. So when we'll take a deep breath and then take a breath in, and then on the out breath, we'll just imagine releasing that beautiful glowing ball of intentions out into the universe, knowing that they will be actualized in the highest possible way. So let's take a breath in and then releasing all of our intentions to the universe. We have so much help and support for this work. Thank you for all the help and support from all the beings of light that support us. So beginning to bring our energy first back to our group field, and then back into our individual heart fields, knowing that once we create an amplified group field, that energy always exists in a domain apart from space and time that we can always draw on for strength and support and inspiration. But for now, let's connect back with our own hearts. Taking some deep breaths and connecting with the earth. And thank you for participating in that. I made it a little shorter just because of our schedule in the room, but it's still very powerful to come together in that way to assist the planet. So thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your presence and participation. You can connect to me on Heart Magic, and I hope you will stay in touch.
Thank you. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Much aloha to everyone.
Yeah, you're welcome to, everyone.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Everybody wants to undo your video and unmute and give Dana some love for a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you, Dana.
Laughing up there.
Bridget.
My body's offering some water blessings, also called tears, from just the pure joy and love. So I want to thank you so much for being such an integral part of this. My heart is so moved, so you'll hear it in my voice, of this, not just this heart hour that we, converged together to bring, yet every aspect that you're offering in this up convergence and all the work that you're doing in the world. Deep gratitude.